It's time for more coaching and coffee talk. Today, I am super excited to have Joe Basile. Joe has had a 30-plus year career as an actor, writer, director, and producer. He's acted with a huge range of Hollywood's biggest stars, from Joe Pesci to Angelina Jolie. West End, a feature film that he wrote, directed, produced, and acted in, won numerous awards on the film festival circuit, including Best Director and Best Film honors for him. We are old college buddies, and I'm so proud of him and his successes, and I'm super excited to catch up with him today. Joe, thanks for being here.
Scotty! Grambo!
Can you... Yeah, now we have to explain Grambo. Did you come up with Grambo? I can't remember.
I am a multi-award-winning filmmaker. Of course I came up with Grambo. Yes, I did. I came up
in
with
college.
Grambo.
I don't know if it's because in college I had the kind of Rambo, I had the mullet thing.
You sort of had.
And I was a bit ripped and angry. Let's face it. I was also angry.
Good-looking, ripped Rambo.
And you were a Sylvester Stallone aficionado. You would whip out the Sylvester Stallone impersonation, at the drop of a hat.
Yeah. Is that the cue?
That's the cue.
Absolutely. There's nothing better. Listen, I still love Sylvester Stallone. I look at that man and I'm like, he created a character in 1976. Was it 76? I think 76.
I think so, yeah.
Yeah, 1976, of course, because Apollo Creed had the Stars and Stripes.
Yeah,
and he's carried it for
still
40 plus years.
And did you see he's developing a new series for Netflix? That's a backstory. Yeah, the young Rocky. Yeah. Still.
I mean, genius. It's artistically the through line, the consistency of the character is amazing.
Yeah.
Because he carries the voice for ever.
Well, my partner,
what can I tell you? I'm a stupid kid that grew.
My partner in coaching and coffee talks, this guy Leonard, he views the last Rambo film as the greatest film ever made.
I'm gonna disagree with Leonard there.
Yeah,
but nothing better than Rocky.
Yeah, but listen, this is what I know. When we met, I guess I was still 17 years old, because I was 17 when I started college, and you were a year ahead of me, right?
Yeah.
Or did you graduate in 87 or 88?
I say 87. I graduated the summer of 80. I took summer classes and then I was done.
Oh, okay.
So I walked 87.
Yeah. Because I have to say, I didn't even know back then that you wanted to be an actor or that you wanted to make movies or all that stuff. Or had you figured it out already, or was it something that happened later on?
I did. I wanted to. I say this with humor and seriousness. I wanted to be Sylvester Stallone. I loved watching Sly. I loved watching Schwarzenegger. I loved it. I wanted to be an action hero. Yeah. Yeah, man.
Yeah, it's a weird thing, I guess, about at that age, is I don't even know if we ever talked about that, or it was just all about craziness and drinking for me in college. I don't even know where I learned what I learned, or how I even passed, how I even graduated. I have no idea. But you didn't study acting at University of Delaware, where we went to undergraduate school, and you were business, right? Were you business?
No, I was. So here's the skinny.
Yeah.
Excuse me. Do you mind if I sip coffee while we have the coffee
No,
talk?
of course, that's essential. Yeah.
Sweet, thanks. So, so my pop died the May before we went to college. So
Yeah.
are you 55?
I'll be 55 in July.
Okay.
Yeah.
So I was 17. So my pop died when I was 17.
Yeah.
And, you know, it's interesting because life never stopped for me. Life never stopped for me. So I was thrown in, you know, it was just, I don't know what I'm trying to tell you.
Yeah.
But
Well,
but
I know that about you now, though, and I have to say, you didn't seem like someone whose father just died. I mean, when I think of you, I think of the huge grin and the jokes and all that stuff. You didn't seem
yeah,
like a kid that was, but obviously that stuff was going on inside. It must have been.
you know, so I- if I move this, if I circle back to what we were saying,
Yeah.
I did want maybe moving to California, maybe wanting to be an actor was an escape from New Jersey.
Mm.
And, you know, I had a mother, I say this, and God bless her, she did the best she did. I had a mother that didn't really want to be a mom.
Mm.
And she was probably very angry that her husband had died.
Mm.
And I don't know. So she didn't push, she wasn't a guiding factor in anything.
Yeah.
And my dad was a businessman, so I don't know if he hadn't died, if I would have had the gumption to move out to California.
Yeah.
But I did when I was in college. I say it's a curse and a blessing. I knew what I wanted to do.
Yeah.
And it's a curse and a blessing to this day because it's still here.
Yeah.
And I say this with, didn't believe in my talent, I don't know if I would have had the gumption to continue the path.
Mm.
And as you say, I've achieved many things and I've worked with many people. And if I hadn't had those little milestones in my life, you know, maybe at 35, maybe at 40, I would have been like, this ain't working out.
Yeah.
What?
I want to pay you a compliment, though. And I feel like this is the highest compliment because when we parted ways, I went off on my own journey with music. I ended up in San Francisco after school. I don't know if you know that. But first of all, I saw Gia with Angelina Jolie. I even remember, I saw it on your reel where you had this exchange with Angelina Jolie when you're like the door guy or something like that. Yeah. And I remember that scene. I remember the lines and I remember her comeback to it, right? I remember it. I did not recognize you. And then I also saw 8 Heads in a Duffel Bag. I watched that whole movie without ever knowing that that's my friend Joe Basile.
It was Joe Basile.
So I have to say, I really think it's the highest compliment because you really disappear into the character and you say that's this guy, and certain actors can do that and certain actors can't, I mean, even very, successful actors, as soon as you see them, you're like, oh, look, that's him doing that acting stuff that he does. You recognize them right away, but certain people really disappear into the character. And I actually find it really hard to believe that I did not recognize. I watched whole movies with you in it and didn't recognize you. It's kind of crazy.
How could you not recognize this, Scott?
I know.
Come on.
Yeah, I know, but it's true. But I think I think honestly, it's a compliment to your.
Thank you. I'm a very meat and potatoes artist. It's very, I take a very pragmatic approach to it. It's not like, oh my God, it's, you jump in, you figure it out and you play it.
Yeah. And so you ended up in California, and then did you start acting first? Because then you also went to you got a master's degree at UCLA, right? In screenwriting?
I did.
Was that the first stop, or did you try acting stuff all the way?
No, that was, I'm going to say that was the middle.
Okay.
So I came out to California. I immediately got a waiting on tables job because back then that's what you did.
Yeah.
I mean, I guess it would be the equivalent now of driving Uber or delivering Uber Eats or DoorDash or blah, 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 blah.
Yeah.
And, I wanted to, back then too, I wanted to make my own movies.
Okay. So that was always the goal. Yeah.
I want to say, yes, it was always the goal. When I was a kid, I loved television, and I was like, how do I make those little people in the box do what I want to do? And I came out here, started waiting on tables. I met a guy, I think his name was Scott, to be honest with you. He was a host at a restaurant that I worked with. And I'm like, I'm an actor. I want to be a movie star. And he was an actor. And I said, what do I do? And he was like, and I think I had gotten advice from a producer that lived in New Jersey. At the time, he was a big shot. He was Brian De Palma's producer.
Okay.
And, I was sitting in his house in Rumson, and he was like, well, he talked like Joe Montana, Italian guy. He was like, well, you might have the looks, you might have the voice, but you have to go to Chicago, Los Angeles, or New York and study acting. And then you blah, 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 work on your craft and blah, 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 blah. So I waiter, and I was working at the Ritz Cafe. I started studying at a place called the Beverly Hills Playhouse. I started studying acting. Then I met that same producer and his assistant on Melrose Ave. I waited on them. And wow. That's how I got, and I looked at him and I go, I know you, you're Fred Caruso. That's the guy's name. I was like, you're Fred Caruso. And he's like, how do you know me? And I was like, I sat in your house, I sat in your house and you told me blah, 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 blah. And here I am. And I'm ready to get my SAG card.
Yeah.
And he brought me on as an extra in Bonfire of the Vanities.
Oh, nice.
So I gave my first lines to Bruce Willis. And, and then, and tell me if I'm making a really long story long.
No, I love it.
And then a buddy of mine was working production, and I was waiting on tables, and I was like, let me jump into the industry that I want to be in. So he got me into production, and I had a really, you know what an assistant director is, correct?
Yeah.
So an assistant director, for everybody out there, is like the set for the production foreman. He's the boss of the set. He's the liaison between he or she, excuse me. They are the liaison between the director and production. They run the crew, they run the day. And I did it quite well. I was a good PA, and I was working. Oh my God, I'm really talking.
That's what it's about.
I was working on Star Trek Generations, where we were reshooting the Captain Kirk's death scene in Red Rock, Nevada, and we're on top of this, you know, gorgeous mini mountain, like gorgeous hill, Red Rock. The sun's going down, and I'm standing next to the AD that gave me my first lines in the movie.
Wow.
And he looked at me and said, you're really good at this. You could do it for a living. And that's the day I decided to quit.
Wow.
I was turning 29 and I had a little bit of money in the bank. And I was like, if I'm going to be an actor, now's the time.
Yeah.
And fortunately, unfortunately, I started to work and make a living as an actor.
Yeah. I was going to say, I mean, it's almost, I mean, people can't tell, well, maybe they can tell by seeing you, but it's tough for you to even be an extra, I would think. Either you're going to have a featured part or not, because you're, what are you, 6'4" or
Yeah,
close to, and your look and everything, you know, you're just not an extra. So
right. Yeah.
You tower over the featured actors. Probably they don't like that either.
You know, and it's interesting working production. You know, I got to see, it was the greatest. It's people, if you want to be a filmmaker, if you want to be a creative like that, if you want to create content, work on it, be a PA.
Mm.
That's because that's your film school. I don't care. Listen, I went to film school. If you really want an education, work on a movie set.
Yeah.
See how it's done. So when you jump on a movie set, you understand the mechanism.
Yeah.
Yeah, you know, and then, you know, I never got the representation. I had representation that kept me working, but didn't move me up the ladder. And people liked me. I worked with Joe Pesci on Eight Heads in a Duffel Bag. Like that, you know, big, small.
Yeah.
You know, and then I went to UCLA and I started writing probably in 1997. And I did, you know, and then I went to UCLA. I did a little bit of stunt work. I went back to New Jersey to make West End in 2007. It didn't work out. And then I don't know how I did it, but I went back to New Jersey to make West End in 2012. And by 2014, I had a finished movie.
Yeah.
And you're constantly, you go first.
No,
I'm talking a lot.
I'm just thinking, well, actually, I don't even know if you know that I've worked on movie sets too. I did acting for a while too. And even being an extra, you learn quite a lot. You know, you can soak up a lot and learn quite a lot. But also, you also get like a healthy respect for the amount of work involved, the enormity of what's going on, the you know, and I guess, how did you even think that you could pull this thing off? Writer, director, producer, acting in this thing. I mean, was it just I mean, talk a bit about that process, because there's the idea and then there's actually making it happen.
So West End was the first script I ever wrote.
Okay.
It was called, in the beginning, it was called Good Cop, Bad Cop. It was a bi-coastal Beverly Hills cop meets, you know, mafia movie. I took a little bit, not a little bit, a lot from my life, put it in there. And as I rewrote through the years, and it was, the script was a 20-year process.
Oh, wow.
As I rewrote through the years, the movie got smaller. It got very New Jersey centric. I am a fan of the 70s, late 60s, 70s through 80s, old Scorsese, De Palma, Coppola, Friedkin, Frankenheimer. I like character because I'm an actor, because that's the base of my talent. I like character. It's all about character for me. It's, I don't know if you know Joseph Campbell with The Hero's Journey.
Yeah. I just read that. Yeah.
It's all about that. It's all about, this is going to sound super corny, but I've been thinking about it. It's because as I write, it's about the human experience. And I didn't think I was going to have to do to answer your question, I didn't think I was going to have to do as much as I did.
Yeah.
I thought I would find a producer that would take that burden off my shoulders. And I found a producer that could help me get the job done, but I had to manage the production. So, as you know, once the movie train starts running, you're in it. And as the creative force, I couldn't say, oh, in the end, I took it really serious, and I couldn't say that's his fault, that's her fault, they didn't do their job, blah, 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 blah. All I knew was I took people's money. I said I could make a movie. And in the end, if the movie comes out crappy, it's my fault. So I jumped in, and it was learning by fire.
Yeah.
The learning curve was huge for me, because I knew physical production. I understood casting. I understand story structure, character, performance really well, but editing, finishing a movie, and rallying the troops, I sort of understood rallying the troops. Post-production was very new to me, delivering a product, but you say you can do it and you do it.
Yeah.
And money, I made a movie. I had a $500,000 budget, and I brought it in. I had to bring it in probably $120,000 under budget, just because we started making the movie. So, and once you start, you have to finish. So I cut a few checks, an investor cut a few checks, and you watched West End, which I'm very proud of.
Yeah.
Are you ready? Let me tell you a really quick story, and then you tell me the one thing.
Yeah.
So as West End got smaller and I honed the story, it became more, Vic Trevi was me. Because I wrote it, I wanted to be Sylvester Stallone. I wrote that movie 8,000 years ago when I had hair to act in it. Right? So the mother's name is Mary. And my mother's name is Mary.
Okay.
And the mother is my mother. The relationship between Vic and his mother is the relationship between me and my mother. Like really me and my mother. So much so that my sisters saw the movie. Two of my sisters out of three saw the movie and looked at me after the movie and said, "How could you do that?" Right? And as I'm editing the movie, I'm like, "You're an idiot. You write a character that is your mother, and it's not the nicest portrayal. And you name her Mary." Now, fortunately, my mother saw the movie and she looks at me right over her head. She looks at me and says, "Where do you come up with all that stuff?" And I was like, but it was, yeah. So that's okay. What were you going to say? I'm sorry.
Well, no, I was curious, like along the process, because you got some, big name actors involved, like Eric Roberts. And when you get something like that, I assume that it can help like green light things down the road for festivals and things like that. Is that something you tried to do to get some bigger names in there, or how does that happen?
Now you're I don't want to talk bad about anybody, Scott. Let's just
let me just say something. I noticed, first of all, you forgot when I watched your interview with the SAG Foundation, you forgot his name when you mentioned everyone in the film.
I forgot Eric Roberts' name.
And then you said, "Oh yeah, Eric Roberts. How could I forget him?" Listen, but that was it. That was the one mention.
I'm going to tell you, Eric was great. He was great. And he delivered in the way I needed him to deliver. I was very fortunate to have a cast. Here's the thing. I went into West End, and having worked in the business, I went into West End and I had 14 of the 18 parts cast.
Oh, okay.
Because I knew everybody.
Yeah. Just from working over the years and stuff like that. Yeah.
So the greatest thing was I could call people and go, "Hey man, I'm making a movie. You want to be in it?" And Scott, and you're going to understand this. You're going to understand this because of everything you've been through and your coaching and your workouts. It's all about your team.
Mm.
So this is the way I'll say it. I had to pick up a lot of slack. And when I tell you this, I am appreciative of all the work everybody did to help me get the movie done, because I couldn't have done it myself. I say that in all honesty. But I had to, because I was personally responsible for money that I took, I had to make sure everything was in the end done.
Yeah.
Casting was a little tricky for me because I needed to cast the main parts, and I was limited in that area. And I'm saying it very nicely, correct? Copy?
You know what?
So I had to overcome I had to maneuver around the limitations of the production of the small budget.
Yeah.
Because here's the deal. I offered everybody the same amount of money. It was a union movie, it was a SAG movie, and I offered everybody a SAG modified low budget rate, even Eric Roberts.
Yeah.
So no one got rich off my movie.
Yeah. And so a couple of stories you told that were funny about that I saw in that interview you did, where where basically you were talking about how the whole community on the Jersey Shore kind of rallied around you, business owners, and
Yeah,
then they wanted to have a part in the movie. There were a couple of funny stories about that.
yeah. Oh my God, yeah. So there were two guys especially.
Yeah.
Joe Leone, who, if you're ever on the Jersey Shore and you're ever in Point Pleasant, stop by his Italian. He has a very gourmet Italian delicatessen. And, if you want to eat good Italian food, if you want to eat good food, I'm not even going to specify Italian, but it's great Italian food. But if you ever want to eat good Italian food or get a great Italian loaf of bread, he was funny. He was like, in the movie, Joe, I need to be in the movie, Joe. And I understood, and I knew exactly where I was going to put him, because he's a big dude. He was the guy that you saw put Vic Trevi in the car before he goes to kill Fat Patty.
Okay. Yeah.
He was the big guy standing there like this.
Yeah. Yeah.
Right. And then Sal Cirella, who owned at the time, the restaurant's closed, a restaurant called Rella's. Sal's the guy that pushed Vic Trevi in the closet when Buddy puts a gun to his head.
Yeah.
So that those two guys, and then you watch the funeral scene and you can see the owner of the funeral home and some of the investors as background, and everyone, the community rallied. The community rallied, and I have the last movie that was made on the Jersey Shore before Sandy, reconstructed the shoreline.
Changed it forever. Yeah. Yeah. That's quite something. Yeah.
Thank you.
So what was the first, was the downtown Los Angeles film, was that the first film festival?
Garden State Film Festival.
Garden State. Okay. So what did it feel like, from an idea that's been going for 20 years, written, rewritten, and then there you are in your home state, and it's debuting at this film festival, the finished movie, and you actually did this thing. I mean, what was that like?
It was great. It was great. It was great. The screen at the Paramount is a wonderfully old Jersey Shore theater, and the screen and the way it was, the screen and the technology is old.
Mm-hmm.
So
it was really like a gangster film from the 70s. The screen was from the 70s.
Yes. So I watched, and this because you're an artist that creates.
Yeah.
You watch the movie and you're like, why is everything yellow? Well, the screen is yellow. Why is everything, so shooting in New Jersey was, watching it in New Jersey was great. The audience, it was packed. Sandy had just hit, so I had all these shots of the boardwalk and the shore. And when Vic Trevi puts on his father's ring, people clapped.
Oh,
and I was
awesome.
Like, yes. Yes, it worked.
That was a good moment. Yeah.
And then I saw it in New York a week later at and it was digitally projected in a great theater with great sound.
Mm.
And that's when I sat back and I was like, oh my God, yeah, I did that.
Yeah.
Because the sound was good and the screen was like, it looked beautiful.
Mm.
And it was just it was really, the film that I made. As corny as that, and it's corny that, it's like music. You listen to your music and you go, oh my God, I did that. And there's a sense of pride, and and tell me if I'm wrong, but as you write a song, what goes into the song, what happened, you know every little nuance that it took to get that song made. I think art, and agree or disagree because you are an artist. I believe art is, I believe whatever you create stays with you. It becomes part of you.
Yeah.
Do you know what I'm saying? So I watch West End and I go, oh, that day this happened, ba 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 ba. And when you see it for the first time, I think that's the culmination of all the whole experience you had as the creator.
Yeah. I'm wondering, because it's like this sometimes with music, that I have to be tricked into sometimes hearing it like perhaps other people would. Because like you're saying, all the details behind it. And then sometimes, if I'm just hitting shuffle on Spotify or something, so then one of my songs will come on. And also I've had a little bit of brain damage, which also helps in this regard. But I'll hit the music will come on. I'll be like, that's cool, man. Damn, that's cool. And I honestly won't remember, and I'll flick it on and I'll see that it was a song that I did 3 years ago or something. And then I'll be like, oh my God, it's like I was listening to it like I was another person or something. Right. Has that happened to you over time with West End? Have you ever caught it and been like, oh my God, I actually enjoyed it as a movie goer?
Absolutely. Here's the deal. Do I think West End is, Citizen Kane? No. Do I think West End is a serviceable movie that you can watch from start to beginning, and it has a through line and it tracks and it looks good and it's a well constructed piece of work? Absolutely.
Yeah. Yeah, because it has a polish to it too. I mean, you mentioned a little bit, like you can go on to Netflix and see things that were made for very little money that don't quite have that. I don't know what you call it, a feature film polish or something.
Right, and you can look. I say this really humbly because, again, do I think it's the end all? No, but you can go on Netflix and see a movie that was, or any platform, and you can see a movie that, was made for $5 to $10 million. And I believe, West End will, hold its own against some of those movies.
Yeah. And so I can imagine taking this thing, as you said, over 20 years, you made the thing. Now it must be quite empowering from that point on, because you're like, I'm this guy that does this, So what happens after the West End?
So it's a double-edged sword. Because I will look at West End, and every once in a while I'll watch a scene, or I'll be doing something where I need to take a piece of it, and there's like, oh my gosh, I did that. And I can't lie. I thought, once I make this movie, once I show that I can do this, this will open doors up for me.
Mm.
And it didn't, we live in a, and here's the deal, I'm still in it. And people are like, dude, you're 55 years old. You need to figure it out. This didn't work out. You know, and I'm sure you understand that. You know, when you approach 50, you don't feel like it's over, but you can see the end of the tunnel. And I can't imagine, you know, how old were you when you had your heart attack?
53.
You know, I taught and I teach and I tell students, you know, 30, you're like, oh, I still got time. 40, you're like, huh, I still got time. I still got time. Oh yeah, I still got time. You know, you're like, oh, there's the light at the end of the tunnel. Oh, I'm not gonna, yeah, huh. And then I can't imagine with your experience, you know, you having your experience, like, then you see, and I say this with love and compassion, you see the finality of it. Like, it can all be gone tomorrow.
Yeah.
I'm at an age where my friend Scott Graham had a heart attack and died. And you know, what the heck? It can't be. And my friend Jeff Corbett had a heart attack 6 months after my friend Scott Graham had a heart attack.
Oh, wow. Okay.
And I'm like, no, this, you know, and then it's like, you know, Scott Graham has a heart attack. It can't happen to me, you know, whatever. And then my friend Jeff Corbett has a heart attack, and I'm like, huh, maybe I'm next. And then 8 months after, you know, my friend Jason Sika, who is I can't say much older than us, but older than us, has a fucking heart attack, excuse my language.
Yeah.
And you're like, do you know what I'm saying? So
yeah.
So
no,
I still have
thinking,
so to answer your question, West End was a huge accomplishment, but it took me 20 years to make. I don't have 20 years to make my next one. So it's a little disappointing when people don't go, oh my God, nice job. Come on in, join the party now. Do you know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
You know, I'm still figuring, like, I'm writing a script now and I'm like, okay, how am I going to raise? Because I don't want to make another movie for $380,000 because I can't afford it. So how am I going to raise $3 million? Get movie stars that can help me sell my movie, really sell my movie. And, you know, navigate the business of it all, because I think as artists, especially when we're young, we don't think that it's a business. We're artists. We're creating, you know, but you have the likes of Tom Cruise and Angelina Jolie and, you know, all those huge stars. That know how to sell.
Yeah.
I think when we start out and we're young and idealistic, we just think we're going to be movie stars. We don't understand the business of it, of art, of entertainment, of whatever we want to make money. So we want to sell our talent. I don't think I had an agent, God bless him. He kept me working for a few years or years, but he didn't know how to maneuver the business. He didn't know how to take my successes and make money off my successes.
Yeah.
Does that make sense?
Yeah.
I'm starting.
I wanted to ask you something about that too, because I can see, I mean, you know, being 6'4", being this Italian guy with the Jersey accent, everything like that, you know, I can see on your reel,
Oh.
they want you to be a Dora guy. They want you to be a muscle guy. Is that okay with you? You're like, yeah, give me another one of those roles, or you want to do different things? Or you love doing that stuff?
So here's the deal. You look at me, right?
Yeah.
Now, I say this, I'm not your typical Guido, right? I'm not, I'm not the dude on the Jersey Shore. But I know that I know that I'm going to play a cop.
Mm.
I'm going to play a crime boss. A man. I'm going to play a certain type of lawyer or a certain type of doctor, but I'm not going to play, the good-looking head of hair, doctor. But you have to, I'm not going to be the lead on. I say this because it popped into my head, like New Amsterdam. I'm going to be the doctor, the tough doctor that, wants to punch everybody because he's angry at the administration. You have to know where, listen, we're selling art. We're selling it.
Yeah.
We have to know how to sell it. People talk about branding these days. And if any young actor watches this, it's not knowing your brand. It's knowing your casting.
Yeah.
It's knowing where you fit in, how you're selling yourself. So how are you going to sell yourself?
Yeah. It was funny because I when I got I'll tell you a funny story, that I got my SAG card on School of Rock, with Jack Black and Joan Cusack. At that point, I was very rock and roll looking. I had like very Sid Vicious hair. Right. And for the audition, I had on, this white and black leather, head to toe leather and eyeliner and everything like that, fingernail polish. And they said, we want a punk rock guy, and I went in there. I thought I was a horrible, they got me on film saying some things, and I walked out of there thinking, Jesus Christ, that was fucking horrible. And then I got the call, hey, yeah, you're in School of Rock. They want you, I was like, what? And it was actually a featured role, so I got my SAG card. I got my own movie star trailer, right?
Yeah.
And so I report to set for the first scene in a bar room, and I walk in, and Joan Cusack is there at the bar. Uh-huh. Actually, I'm standing at the bar, and she walks in, and we just start talking. She's the sweetest, she's totally sweet.
Right. And
then another guy came up, and I started talking with him, and we were talking for like maybe 10 minutes, and then I paused and I said to him, so what is it that you do on this movie? And he said, I'm Richard Linklater. I'm the director. I hired you. And I said, that's why I'm never going to make it in this business. And I laughed, and he was like this.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, it's crazy.
But then about the branding thing, I ended up shaving my hair off, and I was all gray underneath, right?
Right.
And then I suddenly got all these jobs because it was all because that's a thing on the type sheet or whatever. Right. Salt and pepper, hair, father, da 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 da.
Yeah.
And it was just like, yeah. So it was so, like I was just that thing,
So here's the deal, right? So you look at you and you look at me. I'm never gonna I go in for bald guys, right? We need a bald guy.
Yeah, well, me too.
But we need a dad, the bald dad for a commercial.
But isn't the worst that, and then you go to the audition and there's 10 bald guys sitting there.
But it's like, it's 10 bald guys of it's the different varietals of bald guys, right? And I look, and I'm in decent shape. I'm 6'4". I look a certain way. And then you see the bald guy that allows his hair to grow on the side, and he's a little unkempt, and he has a little belly, and he's the dad. Do you know what I'm saying? Like, you and I, if they were looking for a profession, like some sort of professional guy, and we went in for the role, I would look and I'd go, "Oh, Scott Graham's got it. He's the type they want. He's, I'm this, you're that." And I'm like, I would hire Scott. I wouldn't hire me. It's really that simple.
What about because I have a few stories like this, and I'm sure you do too. Were you ever working on a film and where you were just in the presence of greatness, where an actor just did the scene and you were just like, wow, that's a true artist, or, that you witnessed something special,
I've worked with, I'll say this. I don't think I've had the pleasure of working across great talent. I worked for Warren Beatty. I worked for Warren Beatty a couple times, and I looked at Warren, and and listen, I worked for not that long, but it was a couple. I was Katharine Hepburn's assistant on a movie called The Love Affair, and I got to be in the presence of Warren Beatty. And then I worked post-production on A Love Affair. Mm. And he had such conviction and passion for his project. Mm. And when Warren Beatty wanted something, he would get it. And he earned it. Mm. He was probably our age when I worked for him. Mm. And I was just like, yeah, I get it.
The charisma. I imagine.
Yeah. Here's the deal. When he would talk to you, he would make you feel like you were the most special person on the world, in the world at that moment. It was just you and him. Like, he'd look at you and you'd be like, yeah, whatever you need, boss. He was like, he was quite spectacular. I say spectacular, but he was, I appreciated the experience I had with him. Tom Schulman, the guy that directed Eight Heads in a Duffel Bag, that wrote Dead Poets Society and a whole bunch of other movies that you would know, he was so gracious. Those are the experiences I had.
So that's interesting. It was more about the filmmakers that you were in awe of.
Yeah, I was Eight Heads in a Duffel Bag. I was working across Joe Pesci, and I was a fan of Joe Pesci's.
Yeah.
The experience wasn't what I thought it would be. Mm. Yeah, when I worked with Jimmy Smits, he was spectacular. He was so gracious. Angelina Jolie was wonderful. as far as experience, as far as experience of creative experience, I have to tell you, filmmakers sort of,
Yeah.
directing a movie is so different than acting in a movie,
Mm.
because you run the show.
Yeah.
You say yes or no. And I said no disrespect to any actor, because there are actors that are spectacular that bring so much to the part,
Mm.
But in the end, I look at the director and I go, oh my God, yeah.
Yeah.
You know?
It's funny because my story, which I'll tell you about an actor that I thought was so awesome, it could have been a director's nightmare actually, when I had never thought of it, but from the other side. But it was I was extra on Wall Street 2, right? Oliver Stone, and there was a boardroom scene with Frank Langella and Josh Brolin, where where Josh Brolin's laying it down and telling him, he's finished, his bank is done, or whatever. And
Right.
it was a small room, and it was just a few extras around the outside that were other lawyers at the bank. And so we sat and watched him do this scene. And Frank Langella is the one I'm going to praise. Every take, he did something different, and it was outstanding in a different way. I mean,
Right.
it was not different, beats, his delivery. He stood up at different times. And then I was just thinking, oh God, maybe from a director's point of view, that's actually a nightmare. But obviously, Oliver Stone gave him
Absolutely.
that freedom to do what he wanted. And they did the scene over and over again. And it wasn't because Frank Langella wanted another take. It was because Josh Brolin wanted another take. And we must have done that 12 times or something.
Right.
That one scene where Josh Brolin is delivering this line, he never altered it.
Right.
He rehearsed it ahead of time. He delivered the line the same every single time. And it was like every time, secret powwow with Oliver Stone. Oliver puts his arm around him. They walk back and forth. And Frank Langella just closes his eyes and sits in meditation until they're ready to shoot again. And then Frank Langella comes out with this other incredible performance. And Josh Brolin again does the same thing again and keeps asking for another take. And I was just like, wow, this is the difference between
right.
an old school and a modern movie star,
Here's the deal. I was crew on Halloween H2O.
Oh yeah.
And Jamie Lee Curtis is phenomenal. Phenomenal. She's great. She's Jamie Lee Curtis. If you watch this by any chance, you rock. She was great. She was just like Frank Langella.
Mm.
She had fun. She was, I don't know if Frank Langella doesn't look that approachable, but and God bless him, I love him. Jamie Lee was approachable.
Mm.
She was fabulous. I did, there are, as an actor, and this, when you come in for a day, people want you to say your lines and go home.
Mm.
They don't, you're not part of the experience.
Yeah.
As a crew, I look at Jamie Lee Curtis. I got to watch my first movie. I got to watch Jack Nicholson, Michelle Pfeiffer, and James Spader on a movie called Wolf.
Wow.
That was my first big movie that I worked production on.
Yeah.
And watching Jack, watching Michelle, I say it like I know them, watching Mr. Nicholson and Ms. Pfeiffer and Mr. Spader work, I watched James Spader, he rocked.
Mm.
Jack Nicholson is Jack Nicholson.
Mm.
And Michelle Pfeiffer, you know, at the time and still, you know, stunning.
Mm.
And Mike Nichols, you know, I've been fortunate. I've been fortunate because when I played in the big pond, I got to play and see and watch the big players.
Mm. Yeah.
You know, but Jamie Lee, as far as watching an actor work, Jamie Lee, Spader, you
Yeah.
know, as I think about it now, you know, James Spader was killing it. You know,
Yeah, he's so good. Yeah.
that
What about these days? What is your writing discipline? Because you're quite disciplined with your craft and your writing. Like, what does it look like on a daily basis? You keep to a rigid schedule, or
I rigid but loose. Every day that I don't have somewhere and work to make money, I sit in front of the computer and I stay in front of the computer. As you know, creativity sort of comes in bursts.
Mm.
So if I'm on a roll, I'll write until I finish a scene, until I finish a sequence. If I'm on a roll, there's that little Grambo in the background. Uh,
That's classic. I said, "Can you just try to keep it down? I'll tell you when you can be loud again." And he's lost it. Yeah.
I love it. I love it. You know, and I try, you know, yes, every day I write. It's a discipline. And what people, you know, what people have to understand is even if you're not getting paid, it's a job. So you have to show up because pages don't write themselves.
Yeah.
You know, and I say this, and you'll understand this too. Until an idea is just an idea, until you manifest it onto a piece of paper, onto an MP3, until you get that first burst of creativity out on paper, you get those 100 pages, you get that song, you get that 3 minutes of song. It's just an idea until, you know.
Yeah. Yeah.
So you do, there has to be a discipline.
And what about staying in shape? Because you're staying in pretty good shape. Or you have a training regimen these days? We used to actually, we lifted weights in the together, right?
Yeah. Did we carpenter or high energy?
Oh, that's a good question. I was thinking that there was a weight set in the basement of the fraternity house there.
Was there?
Maybe I'm making that up. I don't know.
I think you're making it up.
Maybe it was high energy. Yeah, maybe it was high energy. I don't know. I can't remember.
It was, I want to think it was either Carpenter, because we lived right next to Carpenter for a year or however long we lived in the fraternity house, or it was, and you know, high energy. It might have been high energy.
Yeah.
I do. COVID, you know, the COVID has kept me out of the gym.
Yeah.
I'm vaccinated and I haven't jumped back in. Can you hear me? Frozen.
Yeah.
I haven't jumped back in yet, but after I hang up with you, I will go for a hike. And then this is going to sound very Hollywood, but there's a hill right by Universal Studios. And there's stairs by the hill. So I do probably a 45-minute workout where I do the stairs. I go up and down the stairs 10 times. And at the peak of at the top, I do 10 push-ups. And then I'll go up and down the hill.
Nice.
Three times. And I'll do another. So I do 100 push-ups on the stairs. and then I'll go up and down the hill and do 100 push-ups going up and down the hill.
Wow. That's a
Yeah.
nice workout.
Yeah, dude.
Yeah, well, you get to be outside. I tell you, I'm not going back to the gym. I mean, if you see on Instagram, I'm doing all my training outside. I'm not going out. I'm not going back to the gym. I love being outside, and it's changed my whole concept of training. I actually feel dumb for going into a dark, dusty box and lifting weights for 2 hours. So I really enjoy just getting outside and doing stuff these days.
I do.
And maybe it's with age too that changes. I don't know, but
I have to be honest with you. You inspire me because the micro workout thing, and I asked you one quick question about it, but I keep on thinking about it. And what I like when I watch you work out is I like that your workout is a total body workout.
Mm.
You're not just concentrating on one muscle. It's about the whole, because when you and I started, it was all about
curls,
day, back day, biceps.
Right.
Leg day, we had, it was the
bodybuilder split. Yeah. Classic
absolutely.
bodybuilder split.
It was about bodybuilding.
It was Arnold. It was about Arnold. Yeah.
Absolutely.
I took all those exercises from my Arnold Schwarzenegger calendar I got when I was in 7th grade.
It was muscle and fitness, and it was
yeah, exactly.
It was Arnold Schwarzenegger and all those big bodybuilders.
Yeah.
And now I wish I had the super discipline to wake up and for 20 minutes go into my garage, because I live in an apartment, go into the garage and do a smash ball push-up workout.
Mm-hmm.
Where, I come up all the way down and I do the whole body into a squat.
Yeah. And
then I do a set of 10 push-ups, and I do, 10 sets, 20 minutes. And then, before I go to bed, go down into the thing. And,
yeah.
it so intrigues me.
Yeah.
So maybe one day I can be like you. And then jump into a 0-degree river.
Oh yeah, I love that.
Yeah. You're crazy. I love it.
Well, I was just driven to that by the heart attack, because I was, I was on all these medications that they put you on when you have a heart attack, and I was like this.
Right.
And I was like, I can't do that. So let me do a bunch of stuff that, replace the medication with something else, and so that's how the cold water started, just as, because it's a great way to help you adapt to stress in your everyday life. It's got such a transfer to dealing with stress in my life, and what I feel like was the real, cause of my heart attack.
Yeah.
So that's why I'm keeping up with that. But well, I think that's it for today. Did we cover it all?
I think we did. I mean, I could listen. I talked a lot, and I appreciate your ear, and I appreciate. Maybe we could probably talk for another million hours, because it's been a million years since we've seen each other. And
yeah.
In that span of time, there's so much. But what's wonderful about life is you and I pick up,
Yeah, right. Just right off. Yeah, right off. Yeah, but we had so many laughs. I mean,
yeah,
we had the real gut busting laughs together.
Absolutely. It's
yeah.
Absolutely. There's so many stories that we could probably review and learn that we didn't know at the time. And then there's such a life in between.
Yeah.
From where we stopped and then picked up again.
Yeah.
That's what's and it's interesting about social media, because we get to have a peek into you get a peek.
Yeah, you get a peek.
Each other's lives.
Yeah. Well, let me stay on here. I'm going to stop it, and then we can talk a
Okay.
little bit more if you want. But thank you
I
so
do.
much for doing this today.
My pleasure.
So great. Thank you.